There's some moments in this movie which if you don't know the background, you don't know what's going on. The part into the respect, how did they get into this movie? It so happened that an American who left the middle town somewhere in the 18th century, second year old became wealthy, and in 1932, he came for a visit. And during that visit, he filmed the visit. When you saw him walking to the cemetery, this is when they were visiting the family. When I came to New York, I found out that this film exists, but it was unreal. It was in possession of my brother's son, and we went to transfer the video to a regular movie, and we sent it to Israel and other places. There's some moment there where you see the group of them standing together, a family. This was a family closest to the visitor, and he visited them, and they surrounded him on their in front of the house, and by the way, this family left, the visitor left $5 per head to our town, and they contributed about $1,000 to the local bank and the local homeowners association, and they left with the local rabbi. I don't know what the amount was for future brides, dowry. In those days, if you get married, you wouldn't the dowry, so you left money just in case. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Yeah, I'm curious, when you were with the Partisans,
I can't hear you.
I'll repeat it.
were there farmers and that were friendly, that would give you shelter, or were you always in the woods?
He asked, when you were with the Partisans, were there farmers that were friendly and gave you shelter, or were you always in the woods?
When I was in the Partisans, always in the woods, always in the woods.
Think about that on a night like tonight.
How cool.
You slept in the woods, you rain, winter time, you slept in the forest. You cleared away snow, you made a fire, it's a whole story. The ground got hot, and then there were four of us. You lay down on the hot ground, and then you put some branches, and you put some snow on top, and this is how we slept one winter, 2 nights. So, any other questions?
How did you know it was a good time to escape the ghetto?
How did you know it was a good time to escape the ghetto?
A good time to escape the ghetto was 80 minutes. If you had the opportunity, you gotta do it. Sometimes the question is, how do you escape and leave your family? That's a very tough question. My wife simply said, what would happen if I stayed with them? I would share the same fate they did. They got killed. In my case, I was really fortunate because I was able to get with the help of the fathers, as the father, I was able to get my brother and sister out, and I was able to get my mother out 2 days, March 17, before the ghetto was destroyed, March 19. And my mother was the only mother from my hometown of 300 families who survived. And fortunately, she made it to the United States, and she passed away in a normal bed, in her own house, in her own bed. Is that questions?
Moshe, how old were you then?
How old were you during this time?
What time? Because I was different all in different times. At different times, I was not the same age. But it all started in 1941, 42. So I was 22 years old. Whatever it is, I was much younger. Any questions?
How did you meet your wife?
How did I meet my wife? I was very fortunate. Very fortunate. We wound up after the war in a displaced person camp. After the war, there were people, refugees from all different places. They had no place to go back, and some places even they could back, they wouldn't want to go back. And so we had so many people who were looking for connections. In my case, it's kind of a very strange coincidence. I was visiting a friend in one of the refugee barracks, and a woman was visiting somebody else in the same barrack, number 13. And as we passed by, I don't know exactly how it happened, but we started a conversation, and that was it. We met for a while. Then my future wife left for Israel, and I had a problem I was supposed to follow, but during the time we were in the camp, our cousins in Shreveport, Louisiana, you know where it is, found out that we survived, and they wrote a letter to my mother asking her, begging her to come to Shreveport, Louisiana, and they'll take care of it. So my mother said, I'm not going to the Middle East again. I had enough of it. I'm going to Shreveport, Louisiana. Now, what do you do? We go together, the whole family. So I had to make a decision. My future wife is already in Israel. That I will go with my family to the United States, and after I get my residency, I will go to back to Israel and marry her. And this is what happened. In 1952, I went back. We got married, and 2 years later, my future wife came to the United States. Really, she didn't like to leave Israel. She loved Israel, and I would, if she insisted, I would stay with her. But she felt that since I was with my family throughout all those years, it would be wrong for her to agree for me to stay in Israel. So she said, if you go back to your family, I'll follow you. That's what happened. And she came back. Just a few words about my wife, because you saw her talking with it. She came and she knew a little bit English. So she said that she would like to catch up with her 20 years. And so she went to Queens College in New York to catch up a little bit. And a little bit took 11 years. She got a master's in special education, and she was very studious. And this was it. Then we settled in New York, and we moved to Pittsburgh because my daughter was settled here. And we're very, very fortunate to wind up in this area. So it's a wonderful place. It's in Pittsburgh, I think. So if you don't know it, I'll tell you. It's one of the nicest cities in the country. Take it from me because I travel a little bit, so I have some experience. Anybody else?
Have you been back to Poland? And what was it like?
Have you been back to Poland and what was it like?
Yeah, I was back in Poland. I was back twice. Once with my son-in-law and two grandchildren. We were in the western part of Poland, in Krakow, the other place. And this was not my part. I was in the eastern part, in Belarus. The second time, I went again. It's one of my grandchildren. And we visited all the places where I came from. The place where I was born, where my mother was born. Those places are still what they were, kind of village type. Nothing much happened there. And that was it. Anything else?
I have a question, Moshe. This question is for Avi. Avi, what was it like for you growing up with two parents as Holocaust survivors, and what lessons did they teach you?
One lesson is I learned that as long as my father can speak for himself, I don't need to say anything. But I feel that you can see from that 30-minute video that was created by a 15-year-old student at a high school project, it's a gift to our family, and I know it's a gift to so many people because it captures, my mother had been gone for 10 years, she died at the age of 80, and it captures sort of who they were and what they left the experience reflecting on it. And then my sister and my sister lives in Israel, were the next chapter in their lives. And I feel that what we learn from them is not always what children of survivors are able to take from parents, because it depends on how the parents experience and get through that time in their lives. But I think what the film shares is their attitude of hope, of faith in humanity, of humor, of appreciating even the smallest things. And they both came out ready to embrace life and without hatred. And I think that's the biggest lesson. And my father often talks about my mother's very strong aversion to hatred. And we were not allowed to use the word hate in our home. I wasn't allowed to say I hate vegetables. You couldn't use that word. You could say I don't like them, or it's not my favorite food. But she understood very well, and being a writer, the power of language. And my father, at the age of 88 or something, created a blog that he's been keeping up occasionally, and he named it in memory of my mother. And it's about the language of hate, that hate language can heal and language can kill. And the purpose of the blog was to use their experience to create an awareness and a vigilance to do what we're all trying to do, which is be alert to the signs of hatred coming through a society and the signs of power that runs away with that hatred.
How do we find the blog?
He has a business card. The blog is called, what's your blog called? Your blog. What's the name of your blog?
I have to remember it'll come to me.
I'll get it for you. I'm liking on it. It has a few subtitles.
It's interesting, nobody asked me how old I am.
He wants you to guess. He wants you to guess.
Nobody asked me how old I am.
Don't you want them to guess?
Okay. Somebody take a chance.
97.
Someone said 97.
Somebody said,
97. Not because they could see you, because they could do math. Someone guessed your age, but it's not because they can see you. It's because they did the math.
Okay, yes.
No, there are more questions. Julie?
Yeah, I have a question. Did you keep in touch with any of the partisan fighters who you were with in the woods?
Did you keep in touch with the partisan fighters that you were with in the woods? Did you stay in touch with them?
Just with one of them, each went in its own way. Somebody, most went to Israel, somebody went to Australia, New Zealand, South America. But with one person, I'm still in touch with one of them. By the way, most of my contemporaries, unfortunately, are gone. I still hang in here, but that's my fortune. Well, tell you something, you asked me about my wife. As I said, this is the greatest thing that happened to me because she was 50 years old when she was forced into a forced labor camp. And she worked 18 months in her own hometown, refurbishing shells for anti-aircraft. And but after she came out, after the war ended, she made it a task to do not use the word hate, because what follows hate, what comes next. This was my wife's one, and she fought for it. She was very adamant about it. And she read a lot. I don't know how many people know what Chofetz Chaim was a sage in Poland who made a slight test not to use the word, to use the word hate. Any other questions?
The blog is called Language Can Kill, Messages of Genocide, and when we write about this talk, we'll put it in there so you can find it. Thanks for asking. Another question? Yes?
Hi, Moshe, do you ever know what happened to the little David that your wife spoke of?
What happened to David?
For a while he was in Israel. I think he became an architect. Then he left, and from then on, people lost touch with him. He must have wound up in Canada, but nobody knows what's going on, what stage it is now.
Somebody in the back, and then, yes.
How did the Holocaust affect your faith?
How did the Holocaust affect your faith?
I'll try to make it very clear because it's a very sensitive question. I believe in the living. I believe in the living. If you don't believe in anything will take its place. So I believe, by the way, as a Jew, I don't think I have a choice. Our faith is based, I believe, in one God. So it's not a choice. I was born a Jew, I am a Jew, I'm proud of being a Jew, and what follows is obvious. I believe there is something beyond us and above us.
I would like to add to that short answer that having grown up in that home with my parents, my mother grew up in a secular home in Poland, in Warsaw, and it was not an observant religious home at all. My father grew up in the shtetl, where the whole village was religious, and you didn't even know that there wasn't such a thing as having Shabbat or having, you know, the Sabbath, and having a kosher butcher and having the rabbi rather than a judge decide things. So they came from very different places, and out of respect for my grandmother, his mother, and because my mother began working in Jewish schools under the supervision of rabbis, she started studying Judaism. And she became a true spiritual, believing, observant, traditionally observant Jew. And he came along with her because he sort of was waking up to what many more contemporary views of theology or ways of being Jewish were. And he was very open-minded and embracing any kind of conversation. And then come the children, that's my sister and I, and then come the grandchildren who have lots of challenges and lots of questions. And what was wonderful about both of my parents, given their trajectories, was that they were always able to hear opposing views or challenging views or skeptical views with open minds and open hearts, and allow for really bold conversations in a household like ours where you could think, I don't want to rock the boat. But we were always able to question, and my children, my sister's children were always able to question and challenge. And I think what my father said is that I like to live as if there is a God, whether or not how his belief has evolved. It's a very Jewish answer in the way that I think Judaism teaches us to express our faith through action, and it's more what you do than what you declare or what you believe in. And that's sort of a discussion that swirls around in our family. Yes?
Have you encountered other children survivors, and if so, can you compare notes?
Have I encountered other children survivors, and if so, do we compare notes? Yes, there's a whole therapeutic community around children of survivors. So yeah, there's a certain commonality that we all share. We have similar experiences. I do feel that, and I know that I'm not the only one, but I feel that of the people we've met, we are more unique in the way that our family was able to speak about it openly, and it was not held as a secret that shocked the children shouldn't know. I grew up with my grandmother who had nightmares every night, and we were in the same house, so we always knew that there was a trauma that was being expressed. I think when your survivor parents have a passion for life and feel that they can share as a matter of their history and as a matter of somebody that you should know what their experience is, you can, it's never something you can embrace or accept, but you can integrate it into what you know or think about the world in a not damaging way. But I think many of us are damaged by the experience, and it's many generations that feel that effect. One of the things that's been very powerful for my dad, and I know for many survivors through the Holocaust Center, is Germany. You know, when I grew up 7, 8, 9 years after they came to America, Germany was the enemy. Germany allowed this to happen. Germany was the country where this happened. And then over the decades, Germany became one of the countries that best addressed that crime in their history and teaches their children. And it is a crime in Germany to say hate speech, to use Nazi language, or which is not in America or many other countries. So the Germans have sent reconciliation workers, young people in their military age, to work in Holocaust centers all over the country, all over the world, or all over the country. And they have befriended the survivors, and these 20-year-olds who are owning their past and wanting to serve in a way that helps the survivors tell their stories, have allowed survivors like my father to see Germany as a different place, and those people are not those people. So it's a very healing kind of process.
And by the way, my late wife came from a secular home.
I told that.
You know that? Okay.
Yes.
Did your mother or anyone in your family ever voice regret about leaving Israel and having life in the USA rather than Israel?
Did my mother, you asking me or ever?
Both.
Yeah. Did my mother ever regret leaving Israel and choosing to live in America with your family?
It's something which, yes. What she felt is what she did here, contributing to Jewish education, somehow made up for the loss of the beginning Israel. But she loved Israel, and she did it because, well, I was not my fault, but I guess, but she loved Israel, to go back often, and that's it.
Again, generationally, the way that got expressed was, there was some feeling torn about, should we go, when should we go? The first thought was, we'll come to America, and then when there's peace in Israel, we'll go. So you know how that has ended. But my sister grew up feeling that way and went. She made Aliyah, she emigrated to Israel at 19, and she made her life there and married there. So they did spend a lot of time there. But she felt like, I went because I thought you were all coming, and you never came. So it is a family issue that you asked the question. Yes?
So how did it feel when you survived the Holocaust?
So there's a child in the audience who's asking, how did it feel when you realized you survived the Holocaust? How did it feel?
How did it feel? I feel that because I survived, I have a special obligation. And my obligation is to be helpful to people as much as we can. As a matter of fact, I attend the religious services, prayer services every morning. And one of the reasons, well, a Jew should be doing it anyway, but one of the reasons is that I feel that I represent in some way the thousands who would have been there had we survived. So I have a special obligation, and I'm trying to do this by attending it daily. And that's it.
Any other questions? Matt, yes.
Yeah, so what do you see as the limitation of comedy in reference to this drama?
Sorry, what do you see?
The limitation of comedy from that of Lane Bruce, Mel Brooks, Larry David. Where do you think are there no hard lines, or?
That's an interesting question. The gentleman's asking what you think the limitations of comedy should be when addressing the subject of the Holocaust. There have been people like Mel Brooks who will make humor out of a very serious subject. What is your feeling about that?
Well, my feeling is there should be limitations. It's as far as you can go, but you know, even in the worst time, Jews had a quality of taking attitudes towards difficult times, and not to succumb to it. So this is the Jewish way.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you to you, both of you. Having the Holocaust Center here is certainly an asset to Pittsburgh, and you guys are a Pittsburgh asset as well, so thank you.
Thank you. He said thank you. I think I would say on behalf of my father, who'll be happy to know if he hears me, that there's many stories about his life online. If you just Google Moshe Baran or Morris Baran, you can read more and you can see more pictures. There's organizations that feature stories like his and his. So, and we'll send out the URL for the blog too, so you can read his writing. Well, thank you very much, and thank you again to Sean and to the church for sharing your time with us. And we really appreciate everyone that came out tonight.
Sorry.